Welcome to the Startup Grind. Talk to us a little bit about, you talked so much over the last few years and over the last 10 or 15 years about failure. And you've used this phrase that my willingness to fail gives me the abilities to succeed. Talk to us about what that means for entrepreneurs and how important it is.
Right. How many people here are entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs soon? Great. No wonder you're at Startup Grind. I think everybody else should just go get a life. I'm one of those people who religiously believes it's the only useful life to live is to be an entrepreneur among professional jobs. Because obviously you can do other things like Madonna does or Lady Gaga does. There's other things to do, but I'm a religious believer. I never wanted to do anything but be an entrepreneur since I was growing up, probably since I was 16. I never considered any other job. I never did any other job. And after doing it a couple of times, I switched from doing startups to mentoring entrepreneurs. So I consider my job is mostly playing coach. I love that job, and we can come back and talk about it. I want to answer your question on failure with an example. How many people here know a company called Sun Microsystems? How many people here know a company called the Data Dump? Not a single hand. My point is the following. McNeely and I started Sun. Everybody knows the company. We also, 3 months before we started Sun, started a company called the Data Dump that failed. Nobody remembers failures. In fact, my point is, success matters. Failure is inconsequential. Yet, what I hear most people who do is not do things because they're afraid of failing. People's fear of failure restricts them from doing most of what they can do. I like to say most people are limited by what they think they can do, not by what they can do. And I'll come back to why it's not quite that simple, but it is much more true than not true. I long ago adapted, and I was very lucky. I graduated from Stanford Business School, and frankly, I had nothing. So when I met my first VC to take money, who was willing to give me money, I said, this is a great deal. If we win, we win. If we lose, you lose, because the only thing I could possibly lose was my student loans. I didn't have anything else. Yeah. Now, that was very liberating. And as soon as you accept the willingness to fail, you can start to actually do things that matter. If you don't accept that, if you're afraid of how it might hurt or what might fail, you're not going to try the things that are material. The second part of that statement is probably even more important to me personally. And if we have time, somebody should ask me about what are all the reasons to do a startup, because it's not obvious. There are many, many different reasons. But I'd like to say I don't mind failing, but if I succeed, it better be consequential. What I hate in general about the venture capital business is they reduce risk to the point where the consequences of success are almost inconsequential. Think about that. You can always reduce your risk in your life, but whatever the next step is inconsequential if you succeed. I'd rather do it the other way around. Hey, if I'm failing with somebody else's money, some VC's money, I don't mind failing, but if it succeeds, I'd better make a real impact. Right? No, look, anybody argue with this logic? So it's important to put things in perspective. People always say, oh, the risk of a startup, how many good people you know who've gone without a job for more than 6 weeks in Silicon Valley? You know, it's very hard if you have skills to be without a job. So what's the risk then? That you move from one parking lot to another in Silicon Valley? That's not a risk. You know, if that's the consequences of failure and the consequences of success are you have make a real impact, make a real difference, make a lot of money, I don't know what's wrong with that trade-off. So I always encourage people to do this. There's also another reason I think the entrepreneurial life is important. Look, entrepreneurial, don't get me wrong,